Ciketic, thank you. Annette Ciketic, who has for so many years just been the key person in the Findings Art Gallery up the street. It was in November that she and I just had a conversation about faith, about people's religious commitment and how that spins off into other things. She showed me that big, thick book of Sister Kent's works. It's an autobiography with a lot of illustrations. And we hit on the theme of social justice. And I mouthed off about, wow, as you have this celebration that's focusing on the works of Sister Kent in a particular theme in January on social justice, how about fusing with a recognition of Dr. Martin Luther King? Because what they had in common in arts and activism was seeking outcomes in social justice. We know what her works did in the peace movement, most certainly in the women's movement, but there's an aspect of her work that touched on the civil rights movement. And sometimes when you get the great movements put in context in the 60s and 70s, the civil rights movement tends to have a shorter shelf life, as it were, because of the more extensive thing, the more expansive things that took place with the women's movement, and what happened with the whole issue of the anti-Vietnam efforts. So as we had the opportunity to talk about those three things, the idea came together to do something in this month, Dr. King's birthday, the January program that comes out of the Findings agenda. So here we are with the first year, something we hope that will roll over each year and get to be larger and more deep and more exciting as all of you in the community begin to see the connections between what inspired Sister Kent and what inspired Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. There are many of us who believe that there was a special thing that God spoke to these people, and in response to that particular call, these individuals did things. Sister Kent, in using her art to be very expressive about dynamic changes that were taking place in the world, Dr. King, as you know, in stepping forward to eventually be the leader of this combined effort in dealing with the civil rights and change in our own United States. So what I'd like to do now is just ask Annette to just give us a little thumbnail about Sister Kent, who she was, what inspired her to do her work, and what led to the establishment of Findings, which led to our being here tonight.
Thank you. This is a great achievement tonight in many aspects, but mostly in my commitment to Ciketic Kent, who was my teacher and my mentor. And Ciketic lived she was born 1920, so you know, she was a nun from 1950s to the late 60s, and that's when I had the honor of knowing her. Actually, I knew her till her death, but her art was known in the religious, in non-religious world as the religious Andy Warhol of her time, and she would take fragments of what she saw in life and put them in a new fragment of an expression. But before she died, she said to me, Annette, please make sure that my art doesn't end up at garage sales and that it stays of gallery honor. And I made that commitment to her. And so I'm honored tonight to see that this is exactly what Ciketic did. These were happenings that she provided all over the United States as well as the world. She'd pull people together with things called happenings, and certainly what happened tonight was a happening. Ciketic believed, and she would encourage her students to get committed. No matter what your commitment is, get committed. But she herself is the first, and you'll read it in her book, that she was a chicken to march. And so she said, if you're a chicken to march, that's okay, because you can march with your art. So we were encouraged to do social justice work, although we didn't call it that at the time, we were too innocent to know what that was, to do art, and she saw that our work was sent all over the United States in protest, of the peace movement as well as social justice. So tonight is just a fruition. Her work, Corita Kent's work, is all over the world still. She has 3 exhibits going on right now in Europe, and I'm quite excited about that. So even though she died in the 80s of cancer, her legacy lives on. So thank you for being part of it. And this is what we originally, Mr. Ernest was here, who was the director here when we applied for our grant to get the gallery, and we asked him if we could be a little light on the street, and we would end the blight and we would be supporting gallery to the Warner Grand Theater. And now people are saying, like, why couldn't we have done that? And I said, that's because we got down and dirty and cleaned up the mess. And since then, we've had such wonderful partnerships with the Grand Annex, and this is just one of them. When we first opened, we started here, so it's like coming home today. Thank you, Grand Annex, especially Liz, for your support of findings. And we hope that this is just the beginning. We will be bringing other themes of Corita's throughout the year and support causes such as this.
Thank you very much.